Hey guys, back again with my compadre, Robert Parry, and we are joined by Paul Shipper, an amazing artist and a lovely guy. Rob, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so Paul, we met, I'd say, I don't actually remember.
Wales Comic Con.
Wales Comic Con, you have a good memory.
It was Wales Comic Con.
And it was about, I'm going to say, maybe 8 years ago, perhaps?
Probably.
Along that time. And in that time, your career, your work has basically gone from, basically to, you starting it off and however long it's taken, but it's gone to a different sort of place now. It is really highly acclaimed, and obviously it's used in lots of different, vinyls, posters, one sheets and things like that. Books as well, I believe. You did the player too.
Yeah, books, yeah.
Even vinyls as well. But
on vinyl, yeah.
I wanted to ask, so for you, where did all begin? What was there a film? Because like many of us as kids, we would go to the cinema and we would basically see these massive, one sheet film posters on the big, all over the cinema, and things like that. Do you remember the first time you ever saw a poster in question that made you go, this could be it? That's, or just took you by surprise and blew you away?
Yeah, I think it probably started in the video shops before the cinema for me, because and when you go when there used to be video shops, and you'd see all the covers, and it's just like, it was almost like wall-to-wall artwork, really, most of them anyway, in the 80s. But that, there was obviously photography used as well for covers, but just the way they looked, and they tried to grab your attention, didn't they? And some of them looked more interesting than others, and so occasionally there'd be posters at the video shops, and I'd ask oh, I'd like, I really like that movie, can I have that poster when you finish with it? And if no one else has got the name on it, you get to keep it, and they save it for you afterwards so you can go collect it. So there was one that particularly stood out, was Adventures in Babysitting, which was I didn't realize it was a painting at the time. I just thought it was a really cool image of the the crew climbing up the side of a building, a bit like Batman and Robin. Huh?
Skyline and the city pictures.
Yeah. So I really, there was something about it. I didn't know. I mean, I like drawing at this point, but I didn't really know about careers in art or anything like that, because you don't really know much about it. And so it was that, it might have been, that was one of the key ones at first, and then I started kind of populating my bedroom walls with more and more movie posters of movies that I liked, that I had seen, and that really inspired me, that just got me kind of like Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and then it dawned on me one day that I just started seeing similarities throughout the illustrations, the posters. And one of the similarities through a majority, so let's say 80 or 90% of the posters on the wall had the same signature. It was the first time I seen the signature. I was like, oh, that one's got it too. And it said Drew, and that's all the information you had. There was no internet or anything. You couldn't really who is Drew? Nothing. So it just became kind of an interest at first, and as someone who liked to draw and loved art at school, and kind of excelled quite well at school in art, I focused a lot of my energy on art and graphic design, and just at college it was visual communication was what they called it, and then from college went on to university doing illustration at Manchester. And then it's just it always kind of stuck with me, this whole idea of movie posters being the thing I always wanted to do. And it was something, it seemed to be a language that I could understand a little bit more than we'd go to art galleries, and there'd be fine art there that was, I just didn't get it. I was just I don't understand it. Or modern art specifically, which is what a lot of people were trying to push us into, kind of trying to achieve something like that. And it was just unless it had an essay with it, it didn't mean anything. Like you had to be explained.
Yeah.
And it's like people at college and university who could explain their work did well, and people who drew something that didn't need explaining did badly. And I was one that drew stuff that hopefully people would see and not need an explanation. So it's like, so that the average Joe could just look at it and go, yeah, I get that. That's really cool. Oh, that's that. And that's, yeah, good. It just kind of, it reads easily rather than being very complex, and that's something I got from Drew's movie posters, was the beautiful kind of compositions. It was the compositions that really kind of got me. And then it was the way that they were executed was the second part, which was, the way it was rendered and the way it was. I mean, I look at them today even in amazement still, because I like, in some posters, you're like, how do they do that? I don't know. I can't. It's just mind-blowing kind of skill that I'm nowhere close to what Drew is, or but there's an essence I'm trying to kind of keep alive. And that's kind of why my job's been.
Your art is unbelievable. Like I'm in the tattoo industry. We're in a tattoo shop at the moment, funny enough.
Oh, okay.
And your artwork is like, it's beautiful. Like when I see it, I've said it to Rob before, one of the posters that I picked, I didn't realise was a drawing. I thought it was photography of the people. And like how you see people like, edit and they put the people, until like I zoomed in on it. I was like, oh no, that's drawing. And honestly, like your stuff is insane. Like looking at some of the stuff, there's some pieces that you've done that I didn't realize were you, and you got like such like a broad kind of style as well with it though. Because like you like at one point I go, oh, that's Paul Shipper. That, and next moment I'll see another one, I'll be like, who's done that? I'll be like, that's Paul Shipper again, kind of thing. And it's just, you are like very, very talented. I don't mean to toot your horn or anything, but like,
oh, go ahead to it. It's fine.
But like I said to Rob, because I didn't realize these DVDs we've got here are the reverse covers, and even though the Mad Max one is a classic cover, obviously these two both are great, but for lack of words, your one kind of shits on the old one. But not I don't mean that in like a bad way, because the bad one is a classic. But your one is just like you were saying, it's a lot more like to look at, because obviously the old Mad Max poster is Mad Max with the shotgun and the helmet. And obviously it catches your eye, but your one makes me go, oh no, I want to watch that. That looks sick.
I think it's sort of, for me, the so like I'll sort of talk about, because Chad and I are going to choose two posters each, which happen to be our favourite work of yours. And my first choice is Escape from New York, because I've been a massive fan of the movie, obviously, like many of us are, John Carpenter fans, Kurt Russell. And the original cover, obviously, is one that we all know and love. And but when I first saw your the Screen Factory release, I don't know, it just sort of spoke to me a little bit differently, because as we spoke over the years, you know that I'm a passionate, someone who believes a lot in great artwork, and I think it can really change, how people view films in many ways, because it's kind of like a door opening to a movie sort of thing. That's the first thing you see in the cinema, especially when we were children, was the poster. Before you saw a trailer, you would see a poster. And when I look at Escape from New York, I mean this one especially, it's just so much different. So could you sort of maybe go into when you did the original, when you did this cover for the Screen Factory Blu-ray, was there a process in sort of looking at the original to sort of making sure that, you were sort of trying to match it in some sort of way, or?
The original poster or the original movie?
The original poster of the film, the one sheet of the Escape.
Yeah, no, I didn't really, for that one, I didn't really look at the poster much. I mean, I looked to see what was out there and what had been done, I think. And I didn't want it to be like the same again. So what I did was I don't know if I think I'd seen it, but I couldn't remember it that well when I was younger or something. And anyway, so I rewatched it. And that's the nice thing about being able to do these collector's editions, is even if you haven't seen it, you get to rewatch it, or or you've grown up with it and you know it so well, it kind of like, you know what's what, and it kind of makes itself in a way, because you're familiar with it, and you kind of the revisitation of a story that's well known. But for that one, I think it might have come after. I might have done Mad Max first and then Escape from New York,
Right.
one or the other. But what happened was, because one was such a success, they said to me, just do what you did last time. I had the main guy in the middle and then surround him with like people from the movie and scenes from the movie or something. So I was like, oh, okay. So
That's
but
become your signature, though, isn't it, in a way? Because a lot of your posters do sort of are quite similar, really. So, like you,
yeah, there are similarities, and that's because it worked. And sometimes when a client finds something that works, they don't want to deviate from it.
No, I mean,
So it's like a bit of a kind of a shame, but it's also really good that, you know, getting to work on other things. But it's a shame when people just say, oh, I really like what you did for that one. Can you just do that again?
It sells, doesn't it? That's the thing. That kind of, if they find something that sells well, they're going to go, that'll do. We'll do that 10 more times. And
yeah, it's a bit like being superstitious. Like, you know, oh, I'm never going to walk under a ladder ever, because if I do, my life's just going to go real downhill or something. It's kind of that kind of feeling, like you don't want to kind of change anything in case it puts a kink in what's going to happen with that release or something. I don't know. Probably not, but yeah, that one, I love doing that artwork. Yeah, it just like, I wanted to do something that was different, and so I think Snake is made up from about 5 or 6 different reference images, because there wasn't one image that kind of worked. And so I was like, I just kind of like built him up from kind of, you know, an arm from here and a gun from here and his head from here.
I was going to ask, so like, so how do you sort of like, are you given by the studio or the client like a certain amount of images that you're allowed to use, and then you have to incorporate them, or do you have can you go find your own and then choose them?
You can do both, but they have to be official images or signed off images, or you know, sometimes the client will send you what comes with the movie. So when they buy the rights to the film, they'll come with a certain amount of like stock images that travel with that movie. They're just part and parcel with the advertising of the movie. Like all the artwork is there, that they could just reuse the original art, but they choose to do something new, you know, so they hire an artist to do something new. And so I'll research, I'll watch the movie, I'll take screen grabs if I have to, whatever it takes, you know, to get the reference material to try and make the image, to get the reference. It's just one of those things. Yeah.
I love the neon effect you got there with it. That looks really cool. It gives me like big like Charlo vibes, you know, like Dario Argento or someone like that. The way that you use, like the color palette you've used. Really cool. Just wanted to chime in. I know this is
wrong.
I just wanted to chime in on that.
I was trying to think of it because I was going to say like neon.
And like just big Suspiria vibes, like the pink reddish hues.
And the background's actually the city where they actually shot it I think they made it look like it was a digital piece of like footage, but it was real, and it was like a miniature. So I think the background from memory was based on that cityscape that they used in the movie when they were like going through the like, I think when he's in a plane or something, or he's flying through the sky, and it's like it goes through the city, and it's like it's supposed to be like a neon like a visual, but it's a practical effect.
Is that where he lands the thing on top of the building?
Yes.
I think so.
Again, like say what like Chad sort of touched upon there, it's the color schemes that are used.
Makes it pop.
Yeah, it makes it pop, and it literally, like you say, you know, it stands out the most.
Yeah.
It is personally my favorite of yours. I mean, I think I met you and you signed my poster for it and things like that. But like I say, you know, it is certainly, like I say, I've always believed, even as much as I'm a fan of the original, it's always taking it to the next step.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say.
I think it has, yeah, because I mean, I'm someone who really doesn't like I am probably a self-confessed complainer about artwork because
that's the best place to be, the best way to be.
I grew up in that era of in the video stores. I saw films that I ended up watching but didn't want to because I mean I watched them, I didn't like them, but I wanted to watch them because the covers were so engaging. They got me in, they pulled me in. I was like, this is actually a robbery because these films aren't actually any good, but it's a great way to market something because if you create this image and it makes people go, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Then you've done your job, haven't you, really?
Yeah, that's true. But it's a shame that, I believe in truth in advertising as much as you can, that if you can. So it's you try and be faithful to what the story is about, what the characters are about, the kind of feel of the thing, and in the hope that when people do sit down and watch it, they don't feel like you just felt like ripped off. Like, oh, I thought this was an action movie. It's like turns out to be like a drama.
Yeah,
because
there's times, like I say, when I bought a Blu-ray, physical media, 4K, and a DVD even, and I've got the cover of this film. I'm thinking I'm not having that in my collection, and I've got a couple of friends who will try and make me a like a custom cover sort of thing.
Yeah.
Put it in my collection and not feel so OCD about it all.
Okay.
Quick one whilst we're on to John Carpenter, Paul. Are you a John Carpenter fan? Obviously, you might not have took the job. Do you have a favourite John Carpenter film?
Yeah, I love John Carpenter's movies. I actually haven't seen all of his movies, I'll be honest. And rethinking like about Escape from New York, I have hints of memories of it when I was a kid, but I think I might not have seen the whole movie even. So I had to actually watch it for the first time to kind of know what the whole film was about, because I couldn't remember it, or but yeah, I love John Carpenter movies, but I wouldn't say I was like an aficionado of his films. I'll say that I love the way that he actually writes his own theme tunes.
Yeah,
a lot of the time. That's really cool because I'm a big music fan and soundtrack fan. So and if I wasn't doing illustration for movie posters, I wanted to be a film composer if I wasn't, so that's the kind of so I admire him for that. Go on.
So it's also my first pick, and this film gets a lot of hate. Not your poster, but the film in general. It's not very well. People like it, but it's not like.
I think it's different because of the director.
Yes, so it's Rob Zombie's 31.
Oh yeah.
I personally really like this film, but I really enjoy it more for Doomhead, who's played by Richard Brake, fellow Welshman, by the way.
Yes.
A fellow Welshman. I just think it's really cool. Again, you've got your character in the middle, kind of your trademark, and you've built around it. But yeah, I again, the colours you've used like the blues and stuff in can't remember. I think one of them's called Sex Head. I think that's the name. It's like the blue contrasting with the red background. And again, it's just lovely, Paul. I don't know what else to say about it, Timmy. I just think it's a lovely poster.
This podcast is a love letter to you.
It is, yeah. This episode is. The other ones are just me kissing everyone else. So yeah, are you yourself a Rob Zombie fan?
Again, I've never watched a Rob Zombie movie. I haven't even watched 31. I'm it's terrible, isn't it? It's really terrible.
Because you have caught the spirit of the movie through the poster.
Well, that one in particular, I worked with an agency, a design agency. There's design places in LA. A lot of movie poster artwork goes through. Like, so just in case you didn't know, there are places that kind of like they pitch for work. Like Rob Zombie's last movie, I did a piece for which didn't get through. So it didn't, you know what I mean? So it's like, so I worked with the same agency who did 31, and we did what was the last one called that he did?
Hey, you know what? That's why I've been a bit quiet. I was thinking that.
Yeah, it's like
Free from Hell.
That was
that's it.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. 3 from Hell, yeah. So I worked on a poster for that. So what? I mean, it's no secret that, I mean, maybe you don't know, but there are movies movie posters that are designed by agencies, and sometimes they'll have worked on one and they'll be like, oh, this would look really great illustrated, rather than just a photo version of it. So, and that was one of those where they'd done this nice layout and it wasn't working as a photograph. It just photographically just like kind of looked very messy, like didn't kind of cohesively work. So then they'll ask me like, oh, we've got a meeting in a couple of days. Can you paint over this kind of design to kind of make it look like an illustration? So that's one of those where the design work was done and the changes were made along the way. Like it kind of got tweaked and things like characters would have been altered or moved out or changed. And it goes through loads of like rework and, to get to the final poster. But that one in particular, and working with a company in LA called Gravelis, and they're great people. And I've worked with them. The first thing I did for them was there was a TV show on Adult Swim called NTSDS. NTSDSUV, something like that. Oh my god, I memorized it so well, like over the years. Now I forgot it. Anyway, it's kind of a take on CSI kind of stuff.
Okay.
But so they wanted like an epic kind of movie poster style for that one. And so I got to work on that. Was the first thing I worked on with them. And then I've been working with them over the years ever since, really. So whenever they feel like a poster, an illustrated poster, and then some I get to design myself. Like there was one for Hubie Halloween, which was a Netflix movie with Adam Sandler. And so the story goes that, the people behind the movie were given lots and lots of concepts to look at, and they just couldn't settle on one. So they just asked me kind of late on, just do what you think, might work. So that you don't get to see the movie, but you get to see stills, and you just kind of work on it and come up with a concept that might work. So I just kind of tried something from scratch, and then they showed it to them and really liked it. So, then from there you'd start refining it. So some posters I come in from the ground all the way through. Some posters, they do a lot of the background work and then I'll come in at the last minute just to paint it, So it can vary, and I don't mind, to me, it's just about the finished product, like how that comes across, as long as it kind of works. I'm not too precious about going, some people don't like saying that someone else did the layout, but to me, it's like, I'll give the credit where it's due,
When you actually just spoke about my second choice, which is Hubie Halloween, which is now one of mine. And no, don't worry. This is the post I was on about where I didn't realise you draw. I thought these were photos because how good they were.
Right.
I generally thought they would like, Photoshop like around each other until obviously a closer look. I love that film. I don't know.
I loved it. I think it had a great message. I thought it was brilliant.
Rob hasn't seen it.
Oh, you got to see it. You should see it.
I know, I will.
It's now become like a family tradition for me, my son and my wife, to watch it. It's because this isn't a jibe at you, Paul, but my wife isn't really into film and stuff. And I said tonight, me and Rob are speaking to Paul Shipper, and she said, who? And I was like, he did the poster for Hubie Halloween. She went, oh, he'll be a good guest. But I thought, at least he knows who she is.
Oh, there you go. That's nice.
I think again, it's one of those ones that, like I said, I had to take a second glance at it to see him. I was like, oh no, he's drawn that. With that one, we've obviously had to work with Netflix with that.
No, that was Gravelis again, the same company that did 31. Yeah, so I have worked with Netflix on a couple of things, but this one it's through an agency, and they were trying to get the work, and so it was it was good. I mean, you got feedback directly from Adam Sandler, not straight to my ear, but through them. He would be like, at one point he wanted to have his kids in the poster, so we had to do a version with his kids in it. And then there was it went through lots of changes again once they were happy with it, and then how about this, how about that? It's a very much a back and forth process. But yeah, I loved that working on that. It was great, especially because it was Adam Sandler was giving direct sort of feedback straight back to me, like about what he was thinking, which is really nice.
Have you put on your website like just quotations of what he said? Like, my sons need to be in it, Adam Sandler.
No.
If Adam Sandler's telling me what to do, he's getting it. I'm getting it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he has spoken, doesn't he?
I'll have to ask him for an official quote. Like I started doing that a while ago. So when on my website, I have a list of a few things that a few people have said about work, like a quote off J.J. Abrams because he wrote me a note, and a quote from Simon Pegg, and a few people that I've kind of worked with over the years who have kind of said something nice publicly or whatever. And that's it. So yeah, I should ask Adam Sandler if he'll just mind giving me an actual quote I can put on my website, because I've not updated it for a while, so it might be a good idea.
I mean, it's a heck of a person to have. Like, I mean, he's a comedy legend, isn't he? So I mean,
oh yeah.
With this poster, Paul. Sorry, Rob, I've seen that you want to speak there, but
Speak
I'm
away.
going on a tangent.
Speak away.
It's very American, isn't it? Like, if you look at it, like I say, my son looks at that poster and he's like, "Why aren't all Halloween's that cool?" I'm like, "Oh, because Americans, they go all out, don't they?" And I feel like that, like in that poster, like embodies what like an American Halloween's like.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very like American, like I said, like you got the pumpkin, the haunted house, and Adam Sandler. You can't get more American than Adam Sandler, right?
You've got the full shebang. Yes.
You've even got Keenan Thomas, is it, from SNL? He was in Keenan and Kel. Look, he's in the corner there. He's American.
I haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, cool.
I won't watch it though until Halloween, because that's the time to watch it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like it's a family tradition now for me and my family.
There you go.
I mean, it's quite again back onto my wife knowing who you were, but that's quite an achievement in itself. I was saying to Rob before, because she's really not into film. The fact she knew who you were, I feel like we should put that on our website. Alex, like Chad's wife knew who Paul was, which is one of them. I'm going to put on quotation marks.
That'll be the main quote.
Oh, that guy.
Take it. Yeah, just write it down and I'll include it in my website.
They are holding to that. Alex Jones, Adam Sandler, J.J. Abrams.
Well, I mean, It goes to show as well that through your artwork, they seem to give you quite good creative control a little bit, a bit of freedom in what you're creating, sort of leave you to it because they trust your process.
Yeah. Sometimes there are some projects where you get less kind of, but over the years, it has gradually become more, they'll want to hear what you got to say, which is nice. And, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to do the same thing, which is to try and get people to see something, and to get people interested in something. So it's kind of a teamwork thing, everyone's sort of trying to do the same thing, trying to achieve the same goal, which is always good. And I always like working with a group of people, that are also creative, because I'll have an idea, then they'll have an idea, and then it just keeps going and going till it starts really singing and looking really, really good. And sometimes the simplest ideas are the best, and sometimes the more complicated it is, the better it is. It's just there's no winning formula sometimes for it, but sometimes it goes over the top and it gets overworked, and too many cooks sometimes can get in the way, where that can happen. That's a known thing in creative industries. But when you're all sort of like, when you're on the same kind of page, like the Foo Fighters one, I don't know if you want to talk about that one, but that was a very
666.
Yeah. So that was a similar situation with an agency where we were on the same page, and we just kind of, they had a little rough idea, and I'm like, yeah, that's, let's just move on from that and just keep going. And it just became, and then we got feedback from Dave Grohl, and
wow,
and he was like, change this, do that.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. I was like, I haven't got Foo Fighters jumper. I realized the drummer.
The drummer of Nirvana. There you go. So yeah, no, that was really cool. And and they're really using that artwork, which is nice to see. Like sometimes there's a movie and they'll have an illustrated poster as a poster, and then they'll have a but it won't be the main one. It'll be they'll have a a photo composite poster for the main poster, and so the Foo Fighters are really utilizing this poster. It's it's great to see. It's everywhere, and people like taking pictures with it in cinemas, and it's been on the morning TV, and it's like in America.
It's currently doing a run, isn't it, in the UK cinemas, I believe, and I'm seeing people talk about it more and more often. And because obviously at the time you hadn't mentioned your name that you were coming on the podcast, we had a little bit of a chuckle to ourselves, thinking, because currently right now people keep on looking at your poster in the cinema, this is, and people really enjoying the film, which again is it's just it adds a bit extra to the making of the actual poster.
That's the only poster for that film I've seen. Is there another poster? Because that's the only one that I've seen. To be honest with you,
I've seen there was a crew gift poster made. That's the only other one I've seen.
I mean, you don't really need another one with that. They said because the film, it's just what it says on the tin, doesn't it?
I mean, again, it's got your signature look about it. I mean, it's and not just with like the likes of this one, but currently you've got the current issue of Empire, which is celebrating the 50 years of The Godfather. That artwork on the front, for everyone to know, that is your work, isn't it?
On the front of Empire, yeah. And the funny thing about that is the 50th anniversary, on the day that Empire came out, they showed the poster for the 50th anniversary, and it's like quite similar to the Empire cover.
Really?
Weirdly, it's like quite spooky because I'd not seen that, and they've obviously, I guess, not seen what I've been doing, and they both came out the same day, and it's like almost like very similar, eerily similar. If you look at them both side by side, you'd be like, wow, that's over there and that's over. It's like kind of compositionally, it's similar.
Are you sure Paramount didn't hack your computers trying to?
Oh, I doubt it. I would have loved to have done the actual poster. I think some people think I did, but I didn't do it.
I've not actually seen the anniversary poster. I've only seen I've only seen your artwork.
It looks illustrated, but it's really not. But I think, well, I don't think it is, unless somebody can really, I don't know. But I think it's made to look illustrative.
It's been quite an exciting time with Empire as well, hasn't it? Because you've done a Spielberg special, you've done an Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
So like I say, we're seeing your work more often on Empire magazine, which is obviously to all film fans is a popular read.
Oh, I mean, working with Empire was a dream come true. Because I've been a reader of the magazine since it first came out in 1989. Right. And so I've got every issue ever that I've ever since, pretty much, apart from when I moved to New Zealand for about 6 years. They had an Australian version. It's not the same, it's just different. But so I missed out on that period of time. But apart from that, I think I've got nearly every back issue pretty much.
It's got to be pretty weird, you obviously being a fan for that long, and now you literally doing the cover of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, what happened was I was at Star Wars Celebration in London, and Empire had a booth there. And so I went over and introduced myself and then got talking to them. And they were like, I don't know, we just kind of, I gave them my card and had said hello to a few people. And then I can't remember how it happened, but they asked me to do something, and it was like it just became a working relationship between me and them. And I think I might have said how much of a fan of the magazine I was growing up as well, and still am today, and it's true. But like I've got a few, you can't see it from there, but I've got a magazine rack there with some of the covers on that I've done, and it's kind of like it's kind of freaky.
It's cool though, because I mean, I myself was a collector of Empire magazine, and when you look at, back in the day, the images on the front cover of Empire were just literally just photo shots, weren't they? There was headshots.
Or just an image of an actor. Or
exactly, there wasn't, no disrespect to Empire, but there was no real thought process. Because I suppose at the time there was no real need for it, because people were just happy with the simple look of the front cover. But obviously, since you've come along, you've obviously jazzed it up a little bit and made it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, in a time where you would think magazines are not sort of so popular because you can get all your information now online, You can even read certain magazines online. You can have an online review. But I think it's really good to use the artwork that you're sort of doing. So I think it will be attractive to the consumer. So if they usually wouldn't buy a film magazine because they don't do it anymore, but they'll look at your cover and go, I'm going to pick that up.
Right. I think that's part of the reason. I was doing a few subscriber covers for them at the beginning. Which, well, first of all, they did a show at the London, the Millennial Arena. I can't remember what it's called now, but it was something else. Anyway, they wanted a poster for the show, so I did a poster for the show, and it was like a live event in London. And then after that, I think it might have been the Carrie Fisher, because Carrie Fisher passed away, and they wanted to do a memorial piece for her, which was quite a nice long section of the magazine all dedicated to her. So they asked me if I could do an illustration that might be at the beginning of that like 20-page love letter to Carrie Fisher. So I did that, and I think it went down really well with everybody, and they all really enjoyed it. And it was a nice love letter for the fans as well, to have a piece of art that would commemorate her. And then I think subscriber issues covers was the next thing from there, and so I did a bunch of those, and which was, every single one is a privilege. It felt like, to me, it was just like, probably the biggest movie magazine in the world, really. I mean, when you get someone like Steven Spielberg editing your magazine for a special Steven Spielberg issue, it's kind of, and then I get to do the subscriber cover for that. It's pretty cool. But then what happened was they wanted to try something new and never been done before, which was an illustrated newsstand cover for Empire. And so it was a bit of a, it'd never been done for Empire. They'd never illustrated a cover before. It's always photography for the newsstand one, the one that you get in the shops.
Yeah.
So I think there was six character covers you could collect, and they were in like plastic sleeves, and there was like Wonder Woman, Mad Max, Rise of Skywalker, Iron Man, Donnie Darko, and Gandalf. It was like the 100 greatest movies of the millennium or something like that. Can't remember the actual title, but I've got them all here if I can show you. But so that was the first ever illustrated covers for Empire I got to do. I mean, it's like brilliant. And then ever since then, we'll occasionally get to do another one. Like the Edgar Wright issue, the Heroes issue. I mean, Mandalorian, Ghostbusters.
That's a hack of a resume.
Yeah,
Godfather.
That's a hack of a resume.
You could say ways with the work on Ghostbusters, Star Wars, Marvel. You're living boyhood dreams, really, aren't you?
Kind of, yeah.
Because by the time
pinch yourself, like.
Because at some point, when you met the Star Wars at the celebration, when you went to Empire, had you already done the Last Jedi IMAX poster by then, or was it after?
That's a good question.
I think it was before. No, it might have been after, because I think Last Jedi came out. Oh no, Rise of Skywalker came out after Carrie Fisher passed away, I believe. I think. Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Because your IMAX one was a very limited run, wasn't it? When they were selling it in the actual IMAX theatre in the cinemas.
The Last Jedi.
Yeah, because
that was a Dolby Cinema only poster. So it was only available in Dolby Cinemas, and it's quite a rare poster. Like straight away, it's quite rare. I mean,
last time I saw that poster, I saw it for £500.
Wow! Right there you go. I mean, there, and also like I it's printed on like a vinyl. It's like a vinyl poster, and it's printed. It's not double-sided, but it's like heavy. It's got like a heavy print on it, so when light goes through it, it actually looks kind of rich looking.
that's posters of taking it to the next level, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's different. It's almost like a screen printed movie poster. I think it's the way it's printed. I don't know how they did it, but it's very thick and you can smell it. Like when you get it, you can smell either the ink or the vinyl. It's very strong. I think they might have been trialing something because you can't rip it. I think it's like unrippable kind of poster, you know.
Right. Well, those are the best kind of posters. Maybe not.
Those ones that don't rip.
Going back to when we first met, Paul, I think it was 2 posters in particular that I saw because you were selling your artwork on your own stand, weren't you, at Wales Comic?
Yeah.
And the first 2 posters, I think the first one I saw was the Jaws poster. And you explained it to me and stuff because I had literally, I had no idea you were there at the time. I just sort of stumbled across the table by accident. And
I remember the day. I remember it well. Actually.
Yeah, because I was just like, excuse me, what's this? I was really like, taking.
Yeah, you were with your friends as well, like, and they were all kind of like
my friend Craig and Frenchie. They were with me, and they bought prints of yours. And this is one print in particular. The second poster we saw, and we all saw together, was your, I believe, was it the 75th anniversary Batman poster?
Yeah, I did something for that. It wasn't. The thing is, like both of those were unofficial. Right. They were for art shows. One was an online celebration during the 75th anniversary of Batman. So I, at that point in my career, it wasn't really taking off the way you'd expect. So, it was like, I love movies, and it was a way of kind of expressing my love of movies through different means. So this was I think that was with Poster Posse. I worked with them on a couple of things, and there was no money involved. It was just like self-promotion and creating something that people might enjoy looking at. Didn't make anything from it. Just an appreciation, because that Batman movie, the 1989 Batman, is one of my. I mean, I was like 12 or 13 when it came out.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was like, it really affected me, that film. I went back to the cinema about, I don't know, 20 times to see it.
I know many people, because I sadly was too young at the time. I remember my dad going to watch it with his friend, and he came back, and I said, where have you been? And he said, I've been to see Batman. And I was fuming with him. I was fuming. But I knew I couldn't go, but I couldn't believe my dad had been. But I know over the years, I've spoken to many people who went to see that film, like I say, more than 10, 15 times. Like,
yeah,
it really did make an impact on it. That's all everyone talked about.
Yeah, it was such a big movie. I mean, the hype was pretty massive, but it was one of those movies that actually lived up to the hype for me. Yeah. Like I've been stung by hype before. Correct. Like, get so excited about a movie, go see it, like, oh, well, that wasn't as good as I thought it could have been. Yeah. But this one mesmerized me to the point of like the music. I mean, the Danny Elfman did such a phenomenal. No one else has. I don't know about this new Batman, but I started listening to the score. And I love Michael Giacchino music, but I started listening to the score the other day, and I was like, not sure. I don't know. Bit disappointed. I couldn't keep listening to it. It was in my ear. It was just, I couldn't concentrate with it on. Maybe that's the point of it. I don't know.
Imagine that on the IMAX though. That's going to be really loud.
Danny Elfman's another level though, isn't he, with his music? Like, he just kind of
during his Tim Burton
gets it, with his Tim Burton.
Yeah, that period of time, around that period of time, I mean, Batman was the first, I think, full scored, like, full on movie that he'd done. I think he'd done Pee Wee Herman, I think, Big Top Pee Wee or something, or the first one,
right?
Yeah, Pee Wee's Big Adventure or something. But he said this was like the big, like, full orchestra and everything. And
we got a hint of it, I think, on Beetlejuice a little bit as well. I think Danny Elfman did Beetlejuice, I think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Did he do Batman Returns on the Penguin as well? I've never watched the original that one once.
Have you seen Returns?
No, I've seen Returns. It's the one you're on about. I never watched that once because I really like Danny DeVito as the Penguin.
He's great.
I like when he bites that guy's nose. That's my favourite part of the movie. because it tells like a little joke. I'm really into horror films, Paul. I don't really watch anything that isn't horror.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm trying to get him to sort of mix it up a little bit, but he's trying to help me with my horror education.
Yeah.
Help each other out.
But no, I do enjoy that movie. The one time I've seen it, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, because I remember when you were talking to us, you were sort of saying there was like hidden little things inside the poster of that Batman. Like it's where he's on the building where he stands at the top. Like he's sort of like a 7, is it? I believe.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a 7. Yeah, and then where the cowl, and then the sort of nose, and then the mouth kind of makes the 5.
Yeah. Oh, because when you told us that, it's
well played, Paul.
When you told us that originally, it's something we've always taken with us. We've always remembered.
Right. Yeah, well, you remembered it.
You remember that bit of, sort of behind the scenes information.
I don't normally put like Easter eggs in things that much, but that one, it kind of just did it itself. I'm like, wow, I just made the 75. It's pretty cool. I don't know. It was just one of those things.
Do you have a poster that you've done, Paul, that's like your pride and joy? Like you've looked at and gone, you know what? Yeah, I've smashed that. 10 out of 10 from me. Yeah, like I've captured the essence of that one.
You do. I mean, yeah, there are some that you just feel you personally you kind of nailed it. Like, you're like, yeah, that's a good one. But I couldn't really name them because it's just it's like a personal thing. They're all kind of, I mean,
they've all got their own story, haven't they? Really?
Yeah. Some of the ones where I've worked on them from scratch and they've come out really well, I'm like, quite proud of that. And because it's usually a team of 50 people sometimes on a movie poster. You don't see the behind the scenes.
I know you.
And well, yeah. So I mean, some of the agencies have got like teams of people, and maybe not 50. That might be an exaggeration.
But many,
yeah. Building things, like, oh, we need this for this, or and they're like, right, I'll go and make it from scratch, and people just go and make stuff. Whereas when you're on your own, you just kind of like, it's a bit more raw, it's a bit more kind of like rough and ready. And but it's always nice working as a team, but it's nice to be able to think you can pull it off, solo.
Well,
So
even with your Batman post, like I say, which you did independently, and Jaws, like I say, again, you look at those posters and you still look at the physical media, the vinyl, the posters you make now for films, and you can still see that your sort of style amongst them still. Even though they weren't officially for any company in particular, you can still see that connection.
Yeah, well, I mean, the aesthetic that I've kind of grew up with is kind of something that I always try to strive for, that kind of look. So when it starts to feel like it's working and coming together, it's because I absorbed it so much growing up that I think that's, if it doesn't get close to that, it just isn't good enough for. But then there are times when, like you said, you didn't recognize some things and that I'd have done, but that's sometimes clients will ask for things to be in a slightly different painted style, or like I did some work for Hunters, the TV show for Amazon Prime.
That's and Al Pacino, isn't it?
Yeah. And that was, they didn't want it to look like the usual kind of look. They wanted it to look a bit more sort of old school, kind of roughly painted sort of look. And so that was fun because it was a bit different from the usual kind of thing. And it came out really good. I was really proud of that, actually. It came out really good.
You're the Thing post you did, lovely, by the way. The Thing's my favourite John Carpenter film. That's just been put on a NECA toy now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The 3D box, yeah. Which, first of all, well done, because those toys are exquisite, but it looks lovely on the box. And is it out yet? I can't remember.
I think people have been
yet to have it, but I will be getting it.
Yeah, people have posted it. They're supposed to have sent me like some copies of it, but they've not arrived yet, unless the postman stole it.
Unless I'm the postman.
Yeah.
And if he's a fact, because it's quite nice actually, because like I say, because Drew Struzan did the original Thing post.
Yeah.
So to have your version as well, and you could get both films on physical media. So you can get the original poster via Arrow that Drew Struzan did, and you can also get your version on the Screen Factory edition, which again is nice. Well, actually, they're reverse covers, aren't they?
Might be.
Factory, obviously.
Yeah.
So
well, that's the thing. The thing with the thing is, it's Shout Factory, who was like run the Screen Factory. They got in touch with me about doing the thing, and I said to him, "No, I don't think I can do it. It's such an iconic. It's just so." First of all, it's competing with Drew, which I on any good day, I don't really want to try and do that. I want to try and, if the people said, "Why don't you do Goonies? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" And so I'd love to do Goonies, but like, how can you top that poster? You can't top it.
It's iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like nothing can beat
with them hanging off the rock.
Yeah,
with Brand. Yeah, holding.
Yeah. So when it came to this one, they said, "Are you interested in doing the thing?" And I said, "I don't think it's kind of sacrilegious in a way because Drew's poster is so." It's so revered among fans. It's like people just love that poster so much. And there's a great story of behind the scenes of that where he only had a day to paint it or something. It's like he just did it so fast, which, is a great story. And then, so I said kind of no at first, and then they talked me into it. And then I think it might have been after I'd done it that they said that they'd actually asked Drew to revisit the thing. They'd actually approached Drew to revisit, to do this collector's edition, do something different, with it. And he said, no, he's retired, didn't want to do it.
It's come quite full circle, really, because I suppose either way, someone was going to make that poster. If it wasn't used, they would have got someone else in. So I think it's kind of nice because oh
no, that's what I think. When they were trying to explain it to me, it's like, maybe they told me that story before, because that's what might have kind of done it for me. Is like, well, if they're asking me after Drew, like, I mean, that might have been the thing. And so for me, it was like, what can I do that's different? And so the only thing I could think of was to actually show the actors' faces, because, include them in the poster, because it's actually, it's very much a character movie, and because it's been out in the public consciousness for so long now, that you could probably get away with that. And, like, because people will be like, oh, I remember that guy and this guy and who's that? Oh yeah. And then the dog, have the dog in the artwork as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like
the dog is a character of the movie, isn't it? Yeah. One of the main characters, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's where it all starts, isn't it? It's where it starts. It begins.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to have the dog in there, and I wanted Kurt Russell, like, obviously, in there. There was a version of it which had the monster behind Kurt Russell, like kind of like ominously kind of behind him, like you can't quite make it out, but there's tentacles, and and they said, no, we can't show that on the cover. They're like, no, we can't have that on the cover. They take it out. So that was a shame, because that kind of was what made it for me. Is like
that's the variant.
It was all there. Yeah, I could.
The variant, yeah.
The NECA release, I actually brought a little bit of that in very subtly, because I really looked at it and like made a couple of changes, took out all the actors' faces, and apart from Kurt Russell. And is the dog on the cover? I think he is. Yeah, I think so. And
if you got your figures, wouldn't you? If the postman had them stolen.
I'd be able to tell you. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I'll have to get on the phone to them again, see what's going on.
Dial them up and find out what's going on. but obviously, Drew Struzan is not just someone that you admire and someone that you've learned many things off. You actually are a personal friend of his for many years, I believe.
Yeah, I reached out to him when I was at art college, and sent him a fax asking, like, how do I be like you? So this was before email. I mean, this is fax machine time. Yeah, my mum and dad had a
Facts.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I know faxes from like old movies.
Yeah.
yeah.
80s,
It's
90s,
it's a
isn't it?
genius thing. It's very clever. Really. But in today's standards, it's kind of very archaic. But at the time, it was like, wow, you just send something through there and it comes out in a different country
Yeah,
over
that's
there.
weird. Yeah, it's strange.
It's amazing.
Bring back fax.
Yeah, it was like teleportation of paper. So yeah, I reached out to him and he got back to me. And ever since then, we've kind of stayed in touch over the years. And then once I graduated from university, me and a friend, we decided we wanted to go to America on a road trip. And on the first day, it started in LA and we had a spare day. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do in LA for a day? And I was like, wow, could you imagine if I reached out to Drew and he said to like hang out or something. So I wrote a letter to Drew, I was telling him what we were doing. And he said, oh, if you're give me a call when you arrive, see if I'm here and then take it from there. But he'd love to see us. So the moment I arrived in LA, got to the hotel, I was on the phone to him, payphone, with no mobile phone. I didn't have a mobile phone. And yeah.
This is
what a time machine.
Yeah.
It is retro, isn't it?
Yeah. And spoke to him on the phone, which was crazy hearing him for the first time because I didn't know what he sounded like. And then I had to figure out a way of getting to his house. And we didn't have a car and we were only there for a day. So I had to got a airport shuttle service, which stopped at about 300 stops before it arrived in Pasadena, which is where Drew lived. And so we got there and spent the whole afternoon with him. And, I got a picture over here that was taken. I'll show you. You might have seen it. I don't know.
I've seen it, yeah.
I have not.
Yeah,
I'm interested.
It's a lovely photo, it really is. It's special.
I don't know if you can see it.
You're very, very fresh face there, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, 21 years old.
Yeah.
Me. And
it really is a bit of a pilgrimage, isn't it, really, when you went to meet him, in many ways?
Yeah, it was like, he was so, people say don't meet heroes, but I was really pleased to have met Drew. And he didn't, I didn't work directly with him, or he didn't like say, oh, this is how you do anything. I just basically studied his work, which taught me a lot, and it made me realize what I like and don't like. And, and I mean, there's a lot of other artists whose art I admire, but Drew's work was one that really stood out the most. So meeting him was a real pleasure and a privilege. And, he was very, very humble, and he said some nice things to me about, because I took some of my work to show him, and I did a painting of Drew, gave it to Drew. I thought it was a bad idea because on reflection, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. At the time, it felt like really great idea. I'm going to give him a present. I want to give him something,
Has he still got the painting? Sorry, Rob.
I don't know.
Oh,
I would expect it to be in the bin.
Paul, to be fair to you, there was. It's the kind of thing that we would do as well. We would do the same thing if we were artists. Maybe not art. Maybe Chad could do a tattoo on the person in general. I don't know if Chad met Dario Argento, you could do a tattoo.
I met Dario Argento.
I do. Yeah, but I mean, a more personal setting. And I guess that it's the only way to sort of pay homage, isn't it, to the people that.
That's what it felt like. Yeah. I think a still life would have been good enough, but it was an actual picture of Drew like sitting amongst his posters, and it was. Anyway, I'm sure it ended up in the bin, but it was just that I wanted to give him something, but that wasn't the, it was just nice to meet him, and he was very complimentary of my work at the age that I was, and he just kind of gave me some like words that. He just said to me, he was looking through where he said, I can see you've had a great teacher, which meant that I'd obviously been scrutinizing his work. He could see similarities and stuff like that in my choices. And he said that I seem to be progressing a lot compared to how he was at his age. It was just, whether it was true, I think he felt real to me, but it was just nice things that, very, encouraging words of encouragement. It wasn't like, oh, you could do that better, or technically, it wasn't like that. It was just general words of encouragement to say, if this is what you want to do, go for it.
You must know
Kind of felt like that.
An illustrator, an artist, they have their own style, and to let them have their own, to let them, express themselves in their own way.
Yeah, I mean, I think my work might resemble Drew's, but it's not. I mean, if it's not the same, like by a long, long way. I mean, it's like not even close in a lot of ways. But it's got. I like to think of the stuff that I do as having a similar kind of heart to the stuff that he did. The amount of love that he put into his work, I'm trying to put into the stuff that I get to work on, hoping that it'll come through in the final thing,
Yeah, well, we've come to the end of the road.
All right.
So we'd like to give a big thank you to you, Paul. It's been a pleasure talking to you, stroking your ego. Especially more me than Rob. But yeah, thank you for coming on. Means a lot.
Hopefully we'll see. Have you got anything coming up recently that you want to speak about at all? Anything coming out?
Well, the Foo Fighters movie's out, which is really nice. An illustrated poster out there in the world, and it's getting a lot of good feedback for the movie, and I wish the Foo Fighters all the success in the world, because they really need help. Like they're only the biggest rock band in the world. But I'm really proud of that, and to be part of that with them. I'd love to tell you everything that I'm working on. There's a lot of stuff that's not come out yet that's coming out.
That's the exciting thing, because we'll notice it when it does get announced on releases, especially if it's on media, because we do collect. Yeah.
Well, there will be some things, and there's some projects I'm working on at the moment, and that it might not be movie related, but there are some interesting things on the horizon that are coming out, and some that I'm working on at the moment that I just unable to mention. But I feel very privileged to be able to do this work and be able to create stuff from my little studio, and you don't know how long it'll last. It's one of those jobs where you just don't know. Like during the pandemic, the first year of the pandemic, it was very quiet for me. And so I was like, maybe that's it now. Maybe for me, this is the end. That's nothing else. That's the end. But then after that first year went by, people started to kind of creep back in with some projects. And so it's kind of, we're back. I mean, I'm juggling like projects like 3, 4 at a time. I've got a list of about 13 at the moment of things that are coming up, which some have started, some are waiting, but yeah, a lot of things. Thank you. I hope so.
I'm not the line of Excalibur that then, didn't it? May long you last.
May long you last.
Gave me chills, he did, Paul, not the first time. Oh,
wow.
Oh bloody hell. Yeah, goosebumps. Feel that. Give me goosebumps.
Wow.
Oh.
It's a first.
Oh, Lordy Lord.
But thank you so much, Paul, for all your time. We really appreciate it. And
we'll put all your links, your website, your social media in the video below, so people can check. Not that people need to, because if they're watching our videos, they'll definitely know who you are, because they're probably collectors of the genre and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jeremy.
Pleasure speaking to you.
We'll see you
soon.
See
Likewise.
you, Paul.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Well, a big thank you again to Paul Shipper. That was very fun and very enlightening. Like I was saying before, I didn't realise that he's done that many posters, and
he's done a lot more than I realise.
And big congratulations on the Empire stuff as well to him, because fair play. Chase your dreams is what I'm trying to say, really, guys. And this will be out. Well, you'll know it'll be out because you'll be seeing it. Next guest, we've got Mike West, who is a folk horror country singer. That'll be an amazing one, guys. So yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you cool cats next time.